CS2 has had a rough time since its release. CSGO was always going to be a tough act to follow, and there have been numerous bugs, complaints, and controversies since its release. But how bad has it really been? This is the first year of CS2. CS2 was announced on March 22nd, 2023 in typical Valve fashion. Zero fanfare, just 3 trailers stealth dropped. What those trailers promised were 3 things. Responsive smoke grenades that interacted with the environment and could be broken by HE grenades and bullets. Updated maps, using the Source 2 engine for new lighting, improved rendering and better graphics. And finally, more responsive gunplay due to the new sub-tick system. More on that later. The announcement brought with it a wave of hype and excitement. Community reaction was overwhelmingly positive, and soon after the announcement, CSGO hit an insane peak of over 1.8 million concurrent players. Not a bad start. Why CS2 and why now? The community had been waiting for CS2 for a long time. Only 4 years passed between the release of 1.6 and Source, and then 8 years between Source and Go. There was also increasing competition in the FPS space. Obviously, games like Apex Legends, PUBG, and Rainbow Six Siege had come along since Go, but the big competitor to emerge in the tactical FPS space was, of course, Valorant, otherwise known as CS Toddler Edition. Jokes aside, Riot are a giant in the gaming space, and the release of Valorant, which was obviously going to be updated with many updates and a well-funded esports scene, undoubtedly put pressure on Valve to get Go's successor up and running sooner rather than later. And we still waited 3 years after Valorant's release. Just Valve things. The wave of excitement that accompanied CS2's announcement was not met on its actual release. There were plenty of game modes and features that were missing from CSGO. There was no Danger Zone, the Battle Royale mode. There was no Arms Race, a gun game mode. There were no community servers, which meant no custom game modes like KZ and Surf. In general, the casual player wasn't catered to on release. The content was severely lacking. There were also plenty of bugs. There was the smooth criminal bug, cue the Michael Jackson hee hee. People were dying behind walls left and right. You couldn't walk near a teammate for fear of bouncing off them like a dodgeball. These were all issues keenly felt even by the casual player. Competitive play. Not only did the casual player find CS2 lacking on release, but also so did the pros, from the lower tiers all the way to the top.
I think the tick rate is a bit weird, like the game feels weird to me.
A massive change to the fundamental rule set of CS was going from MR15 to MR12. Instead of needing 16 rounds to win, you only needed 13. Now, this might seem like all it does is shorten games, which is largely true for the casual player, but for the pros, it was a much more fundamental change. The economy is a big part of CS, and shorter games led to less buy rounds. Now, Valve didn't change anything about CS2's economy to account for this. Peeker's advantage was huge on CS2's release. Peeker's advantage is simply that somebody peeking has advantage over someone holding a corner, and this was felt too keenly on the game's release. Time to grab those P90s and rush around every single corner, no stopping. Sub-tick also just didn't feel as smooth as CSGO's old tick system. The old system meant that packages were sent and received by the servers at specific time intervals, otherwise known as ticks, whereas sub-tick promised that these packages would be sent and received constantly, resulting in smoother and more responsive gameplay. That wasn't the case, at least in terms of how the game felt to play. There were also movement issues related to sub-tick, such as inconsistent jump height. There were clipping issues on almost every map, and crashes that plagued pro matches, some very notable examples. All of these issues, the changing game length, Peeker's advantage, sub-tick being subpar, movement issues, clipping issues, and crashes might have been small on their own, but they snowballed together into a very significant change. Combine this with the lack of content, and it was a game that, frankly, felt unfinished, both to pros and to casual players alike. The updates since. Valve, of course, have pushed plenty of updates since CS2's release. Major bugs were patched out fairly quickly, so no more sweet Michael Jackson slides, unfortunately. Clipping issues were addressed on every single map, meaning you no longer stubbed your toe on weird edges. Pixel gaps were eliminated, and much, much more. New game modes have been added to the game, including Arms Race and the much beloved Wingman mode. Still no danger zone though, so Battle Royale players are out of luck. There also have been updates and changes to the sub-tick system, and it does feel much smoother than on release, although still not up to Go standards according to the pros. Incendiary grenades were nerfed into the ground, and Overpass was removed from the game in favour of Dust 2. Jump throw binds were also banned. They were a way of binding your keyboard in order to get consistent jump throws every single time. Pika's advantage was reined in. Poor dong. Although, according to the consensus, it is still more prevalent than it was in CSGO. And there was, of course, the Snap Tap debacle, and Valve moved quickly to ban that feature. We recommend heading to HLTV to read up on the specifics of that one, but basically Valve didn't want skill expression removed from the game, so thumbs up to them on that one. Progress has, however, been relatively slow. For a game that regularly sits atop Steam's most played, with 1.5 million concurrent players, there hasn't been as much movement as the community would like, and the lack of content is a real sore point. There will inevitably be more updates and improvements made to the game, however recent developments have left the community less than optimistic for the future. Deadlock, Valve's new MOBA-style shooter, just got a massive content update, while CS2 got nothing on the 1-year anniversary of its release. A week after CS2's anniversary, just Valve things again, the game did get a significant update in the form of the Armory. Over 100 cosmetic items and significant networking and animation changes shipped with the update, making for one of the longest set of patch notes since the game's release. The response to the Armory was mixed. Critics said that the update was 90% cosmetic and lamented the fact that it didn't have the same depth as one of the old operations, lacking the same type of in-game missions or operation-specific game modes. They also pointed out the significant average FPS drops and packet loss issues that players were experiencing, as well as all the bugs, of course. Supporters, however, reckoned that the game felt smoother to play and particularly enjoyed the animation changes, with even pro players weighing in to voice their praise. From 2025, franchise leagues have been banned, so a circuit filled with a range of tournament organisers putting on events all over the globe is lined up. The community aren't happy with the pace of updates, and they look back on CSGO with the rosiest of rose-tinted glasses. It's not like this has ever happened before, right?
CSGO, when it came out in 2012, was also absolute garbage at the start, right? Even worse, so